Welcome to the Fantasy Coaching Game Plan presented by Miller Lite. My name is Jimmy Rooney. I'm here to introduce the Miller Lite Fantasy Coaching Contest in the Pro Fantasy Coaching Game mobile app. Pro FCG is a mobile app that enables all fans to connect a game board to live football games, guess each upcoming play call in real time, and score points to rise up the leaderboards and win great prizes. This season, Miller Lite is offering prizes to the top scoring players during select Steelers games at partner venues in the Pittsburgh area. Download and register for the Pro FCG app and connect to a Steelers game in the app to enter. Participate for a chance to win tickets to Steelers versus Chiefs or Steelers versus Bengals at Acrisure Stadium at the end of the season. The more you play, the more chances you get to win. The game is entirely free to play, and there is no purchase necessary to participate in the contest. Find full contest and gameplay details in the show notes below. Now, I'm going to bring in Steelers expert and NFL analyst Matt Williamson to get advice on how to make the best picks in this week's Raiders versus Steelers game. So today I'm joined by Steelers and NFL analyst Matt Williamson to analyze the Steelers and Jets coaching tendencies and put together a game plan for how to make the best picks in the Pro Fantasy Coaching Game app this weekend. Matt, welcome to the show.
Yeah, this has been fun. I'm psyched. This is going to be a really exciting game here. I mean, 50th anniversary of Super Bowl IX, primetime game. You know, we're recording this on a Tuesday where it was just basically announced that Russell Wilson's going to be the starter, and they traded for Devontae Adams. So a lot of balls up in the air right now for concerning this game.
Exactly. Sounds like there should be a lot of change this week. So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what the tendencies look like.
so it makes it a little more unpredictable.
Exactly. So even with some of that, I guess with the Steelers playing the Jets Sunday Night Football, what are you expecting to see in the game?
I think it's gonna be a really good game. So first of all, I think we need to talk about the Jets as a whole. I mean, it's been 13 years since the Jets went to the playoffs. They got eliminated by the Steelers 13 years ago and have not been back since. That is by far the longest streak in the entire league. And they're on a 3-game losing streak. They were overseas 2 weeks ago, Monday night this past week. They made a coaching change. They made a giant trade. And I think it's just desperate might not be the right word, but it's somewhere between aggressive and desperate. That we have to do everything possible to maximize Aaron Rodgers' last few years in the league or last year in the league, and even all off season, not knowing a lot of things I just mentioned. I thought this roster could win the Super Bowl if it hit, and was also the most fragile roster in the entire league. It's a lot of older guys. They have more former first-round picks than any team in the league, and a lot of them are at the end of their career, like Rodgers, Tyron Smith, guys like that. So they are in it to win it, and this Adams trade really shows that they have pushed their chips in the middle, and if they go, what would they be, 2-5? I mean, that's pretty darn close to being eliminated. So this is a desperate, desperate team with a lot of ability.
Yeah, so it sounds like it might be a good place to start with the Jets offense this week, in terms of some of the trends we might see.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the Jets offense? Do you expect this, desperation, like you said, to make them more aggressive with play calling, things like that?
Yeah. So they've invested a lot in the offensive line, but it really has not returned on their investment enough. So sort of like late career Ben Roethlisberger, Rodgers is getting the ball out of his hands quickly. And he also, you can just tell, doesn't enjoy getting hit at his age nearly as much. He doesn't handle it as well. His body language, he's older. That's common amongst, older quarterbacks. They're going to get it out quick. They don't want to get hit, but he's still been getting hit a lot. And they are a very high percentage pass team. Now, again, this gets a little hairy because we've only seen one game Monday night when since the coaching change, and we have a new guy calling plays, and they still have thrown the ball a very high percentage. I mean, like, they're at 64% for the year, which is very high. And over their last 3 games, they're at 71, which is even higher. But that one game, clearly it was an objective to feature Breece Hall more, and run the ball and get it in his hands and lessen the protection issues and hits on Rodgers. but then they go trade for one of the best receivers in the league. So that makes their tendencies very difficult. But when in doubt, I think they are pass heavy. They are pass heavy no matter what situation I looked into, but especially on second downs. They throw a lot on second downs.
Great. So they throw a lot of second downs. Is there any kind of reason why you think that is?
Part of it is I think they haven't run the ball very well. So when they run the ball on first, they're in second and long a lot. I also think you can't ever underestimate Rodgers' ability above the neck. And on early downs, you're going to get more generic coverages. And I think he's going to be a little more comfortable, against those generic coverages, no matter what the second down and distance is. So I think that's part of it. But I don't know if their run percentage goes up because they want to take something off the old quarterback's plate, or does it go the opposite direction because you just added a really, really good receiver?
Right. Okay. And then so with the early down passing or the second down passing, I remember last week I heard or even since the Raiders game, I've heard some talk about, the Raiders quick passing game was pretty
Mm-hmm.
focused on low depth of target. What does the Jets look like in terms of how far downfield they're throwing in these second down situations?
Not super strong one way or another. So it's kind of middle of the road. But one thing about Rodgers all year is he's getting the ball out of his hands on average in 2.55 seconds, which is only longer than Mayfield and Andy Dalton. So that correlates to not a lot of deep shots because the ball is coming out awfully quick. So and his yards per attempt, this might surprise people, is only higher than 6 quarterbacks. So yes, they take shots, but it's a lot more quick hitter stuff on no matter what the down and distance is. And what's really shocking, and I still think Rodgers is really dangerous, but his completion percentage is only better than 5 passers out there. And getting at him should help, but if you're gonna be a quick hitting, get the ball out quick, your completion percentage should be really high, and it hasn't been for him.
Okay. So they've been focusing a lot on quick passes, especially passing on second down.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think the Steelers will sort of match up with that on defense?
Well, usually in most weeks when we do this, I'm sure we're going to talk about Porter on their number one. Now, I think Jackson has been a very good number 2 corner, and he's picking the ball off 3 times. And now that, and if they hadn't traded for Adams, I'd be like, Porter's going to be on Garrett Wilson all the time. But now I wonder, might they play sides just because Adams and Wilson are equally dangerous? Like why bother following if they're both, basically the same tier of receiver? I think it's huge that the Steelers look like they're getting Alex Highsmith back, because if it was last week, I would say Tyron Smith, I think, is a Hall of Fame left tackle at the end of his rope, but still, a Hall of Fame left tackle, would just run at those replacement level outside linebackers. Now with Highsmith there, I think they're going to be less likely to do that, less likely to trust their protection. Watt has been a superstar as always. Cam Hayward's playing at a remarkably high level. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of blitz. And Rodgers is so smart above the neck that he knows it's coming. He knows how to beat it. And that his guys now are so dangerous that I think you're going to be a little more bend but don't break on the back end.
Sure. So I guess two big keys I'm hearing so far. The Jets are going to be pretty pass heavy on second downs, but a lot of their passes will be kind of the quick hitters. And then with the Steelers, they might have the edge on the defensive line, but will
Yes.
play sort of coverage over the back end and sort of force the lower passes or the shorter yardage passes as well.
I think so. And the Steelers tackled really, really well against the Raiders. And I think that's a big strength of theirs. I thought Queen played his best game in a Steeler uniform. So they're getting a lot of speed and a lot of good tacklers to these ball carriers. So I think that's going to be a key for them, with Minka kind of just cleaning everything up on the back end that gets through.
Okay. So for people playing at home, They might, again, pick pass in most situations, pick the shorter passes because of the quick passing, but then
Mhm.
also not expect a whole lot of plays to break for, you know, 10, 20 yards with missed tackles. Are three big keys we're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. And not to mention, if you just look at explosive plays, which is gains of 15 yards or more, there's only the Broncos, Chiefs, Jets, and Colts are better at allowing explosive plays. So both these defenses are at the top of the league in terms of not allowing explosive plays. So that would be a big key on both sides of the ball, I think.
Great. So no matter what we're picking on our fantasy coaching game, the choice is splash play for those deeper explosive plays. We're not going to expect to pick a lot of those this week.
I wouldn't say so, even though that the Jets have a lot of good weapons, but I think the Steeler defense kind of counteracts that.
Great. So is there anything else people playing from home should look for on this side of the ball before we switch?
Mm, not that I know of. I mean, again, I am very curious to see how they incorporate Adams. Does he play every snap? Does he run a limited route tree, or do him and Rodgers just pick right up where they were in Green Bay with unbelievable timing and back shoulder throws and things of that nature? I don't know. Garrett Wilson's been peppered with targets lately, and I think that's going to come down, obviously. I mean, 2 weeks ago, he got targeted 23 times, and last week he got targeted 10. So there's, again, a lot of balls in the air with this particular matchup.
Okay. Well, again, it's all so new. It's hard to know how it'll be played out, but it'll be
Mm-hmm.
exciting to watch.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess on the other side of the ball now, there's still a lot going on with the Steelers offense as well. What can you tell us about their tendencies or things that might change this week?
Well, they've been run heavy no matter what. I mean, no matter what the down and distance is, they are way over expectation in terms of running the football. And they too have the strongest tendency on second downs to run the ball. Now they haven't been very successful on first downs, so they're still running the ball a lot in second and longs. Now, the Jets have a lot of talent on their defense. Quinnen Williams at defensive tackle is absolutely one of the best in the league. We know the Steelers have had a lot of shuffling offensive lines. This is going to be their fifth different starting offensive line group of the year, which is really bad business with Zach Frazier out. And Frazier's probably already their best run blocker. And of course, the running back scrambles and designed running back or quarterback scrambles and designed quarterback runs are going to go down. But it's not like Wilson's a stiff, but he's not Justin Fields, and they're not going to run him nearly as much. So if you're weaker at center, if you have a less mobile quarterback, I have to think their pass percentage at least goes up. I mean, that it won't be so overwhelmingly run heavy.
Great. So we're expecting more passing from the Steelers. What with if it's Russ in the game, what does that look like in terms of what parts of the field would he be attacking as a
Mm-hmm.
passer versus Fields?
So this is a little bit more of a Sean Payton Denver thing, but I think it also applies to Wilson. The Broncos last year with Wilson as their starting quarterback led the league in running back receptions.
Mhm.
So one thing that's been true about Wilson throughout his entire career is, I use a golf analogy, is he doesn't really have any irons in his bag. He has a putter and he has a driver. Like, he is one of the best deep throwers in the league. And I also think that's one of the reasons they're going to Wilson, because the Steelers are seeing so many heavy boxes that you have to make teams pay over the top to make them honest. And frankly, Fields hasn't done that well enough. His deep passing percentage is way too low. So Wilson's been touchdown or check down. There's not a lot of intermediate passing. And because of his height, he has a hard time seeing the middle of the field. So not a lot of throws between the numbers. This has been true through his entire career. A lot of deep balls, a lot of short stuff, often to backs. And I also think Jaylen Warren knocked off a little of the rust last year and could get more involved in those short running back throws too.
Right. So if there's, the passing's mostly focused on deep shots or running back checkdowns, are those skewed based on, the down and distance at all, or where they are in the field? Like when do they decide to do different types
I
of
don't think there's particularly strong tendencies
Mhm.
with that. It's not like third down, they're just chucking it deep. I do think that only the Lions have used play action more than the Steelers. So I think that will continue. I don't think that's just a Fields thing. And Wilson's numbers on play action for his career are outstanding, where Fields this year off play action was really poor. So where I'm going with that is I definitely think they will take shots on running downs, like come out with two tight ends or heavier personnel and still take play action shots downfield more so than they did, and probably with more success.
Great. So on the Steelers side, it sounds like, especially with the quarterback change, we're expecting some more passing. It's hard to say how much more at this
Mm-hmm.
point, but the passing to be either, deep shots downfield, maybe on running downs. So try to pick those either deeper passes or the running back checkdowns that'll be shorter down the field. Um, how how will do you expect the Jets defense to match up with some of that?
Yeah, and so just going back to the percentages, and again, this has all been with Fields. Only the Ravens throw the ball at a less percentage than Pittsburgh. Now, I do think the Steelers' percent goes up with Wilson and the circumstances, but teams are attacking the Jets on the ground as well. Only four defenses are seeing a higher percentage of run plays than the Jets, who even with a backup running back, Buffalo had a lot of success on the ground. So I think that's worth noting as well. Um, when we record this, I don't know the injury status of Reed. He's their second corner opposite Sauce Gardner. The Jets, since Sauce has been there, are a left-right corner team. They do not have him follow. Rarely. It's happened, but it's rare. They are not a follow team like the Steelers
Mhm.
because Reed's a really good number two. And it's just more confusing for the other 10 to have a corner follow. So if Reed is out, though, since Pickens is so much more of a threat than the other receivers on the team, my hunch is they would have Gardner on Pickens a lot, which is a really difficult matchup. But we saw Pickens against Surtain in Denver, who I think is the only corner I would take over Gardner right now, have a lot of success. So I don't know exactly what to think about that. I definitely think that Wilson, which is a veteran quarterback thing, will get more people involved. Like Jefferson and Austin have had very few catches. And I'm not saying they're great, but I bet he gets them a little bit more involved, particularly early on, spreads the ball around. So Jets are good. I mean, their
Mhm.
defense is very good. I mean, Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner are two of the absolute best players at their position. Their first round pick from a year ago, McDonald, is second in the league in sacks. They rush the passer well. Their linebackers are very active and they're on the field a lot. They play a lot of nickel and it's a well coached group. I mean, the defense has not been the problem. And frankly, their former head coach is a very good defensive mind that has a Niner like defensive mentality.
Okay, yeah, great. So I guess we've talked about the strengths of, or the tendencies and strengths, Steelers offense, Jets defense. As people are, playing along as they're watching the game, what are some keys that they can look for to try to figure out, when a play might be coming out of a run or a pass or a deep shot, things like that?
Well, I think we laid a lot of them out, I mean, in terms of taking shots on early downs for the Steelers, heavy second down tendencies for both offenses. Teams are attacking the Jets on the ground. Not a lot of explosive plays allowed by either defense, and a lot of talent on both defenses overall. A couple things I would certainly look for though is the corner matchups. Does Porter travel? Does he only stay on Wilson? Does he only stay on Adams? And will the Jets break tendencies and have Sauce travel with Pickens? I think those are things to really pay attention to for sure.
Great. And so if we see some of that traveling, then there might be an edge to the defense on
Mm-hmm.
both sides. But if we don't, then there might be some good matchups for either Pickens or Adams, Wilson,
Yeah.
and maybe some opportunities for some downfield passing.
Yes, I do think that. And one thing I wanted to reiterate too now with Wilson starting, these guys have just had these two quarterbacks just have so much experience and have had so much success in the league. Like, how about this for a crazy number? Like, if you look at touchdown to interception ratios all time in NFL history, it probably doesn't shock anyone that Pat Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers are number 1 and 2. They're the best touchdown to interception ratio in the history of this great game. Russell Wilson's 3. I mean, you wonder why the quarterback change is happening. I mean, that's one of the reasons.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that's good to know. And then that's obviously on both sides of the ball. We're not probably looking for a whole lot of turnovers.
No, and I wouldn't think a lot of blitz either, because these guys have seen it. And, I mean, I don't think you're going to outsmart either one of them very much.
Great. So a few turnovers, few blitzes. And I'll just reiterate your list here one more time. We're looking at potential early down shots down the field for the Steelers, heavy second down tendencies with the Steelers running, the Jets passing.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers might have an opportunity to run and have some successful, longer yardage runs on this Jets defense. And then, we're looking at the corner matchups, which of the star corners are traveling with the star receivers, and just, veteran quarterbacks with few interceptions, few sacks allowed.
Absolutely.
Great. That's a great list. Is there anything else we should be looking for?
No, I think I've given you a lot of information, but it is a weird game in that the Jets have changed so much in such a short amount of time, and the Steelers have a new quarterback. I mean, there's not much bigger things that can change than what these two teams have changed overnight almost.
Absolutely. So it'll be exciting to see how it plays out. And we really appreciate your keys. So, Matt, thank you so much for joining and for all of your great insights. Where can listeners find more of your work?
Yeah, I would check me out on Twitter at Williamson NFL. I host a podcast every day, Peacock and Williamson on the Locked On Network. And Dale Lawley and I host The Drive, which you can find on Steelers.com every day too.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for everybody for tuning in. Remember to use all this expertise from Matt Williamson to win the next Miller Lite Fantasy Coaching Contest in the Pro Fantasy Coaching Game app. Thanks again to Matt Williamson for joining. Use his expert advice to win prizes at the next Miller Lite Fantasy Coaching Contest. Download and register for the Pro FCG app and connect to a Steelers game in the app to enter. Participate for a chance to win tickets to Steelers versus Chiefs or Steelers versus Bengals at Acrisure Stadium in week 17 and 18. The more you play, the more chances you get to win. Join live contests and win exclusive prizes at Coop De Ville, Walter's Barbecue, Lot 17, the Clubhouse, Rochester Inn, Twin Peaks, Mulligan Sports Bar and Grill, and Monico's Bar and Grill on select game days. The game is entirely free to play, and there's no purchase necessary to participate in the contest. Thank you for listening, and may the best coach win.